We all face difficulties, doubts, and fears. But what if I told you that these very obstacles could be the key to your success and inner peace? Stoicism isn't just a philosophy. It's a practical power that helps us manage our lives without giving into fear and external circumstances. How often do we let time, failure, or fear destroy our dreams and plans? Stoicism teaches us something entirely different. Not to fear, not to panic, but to work with what we have. To move forward despite everything. You don't have to succumb to fear, failure, or what can't be controlled. All that's needed is to develop the inner strength that will help you handle challenges with confidence and composure. On this path, Stoicism can become your greatest ally. It's a philosophy that gives us the tools to deal with our emotions and life situations, leading us toward mindfulness and calm. If you want to learn how to apply Stoicism in your life and start living with ease, awareness, and confidence, no matter what happens around you, subscribe to the channel and hit like. Your support helps me create more content that will make your life better. Fear is one of the strongest emotions, one that can paralyze us, taking away our ability to act. But what if we could learn to work with this fear, instead of being slaves to it? Stoics like Seneca and Epictetus taught that fear isn't something to fight, but something we must learn to live with. In their philosophy, there's no place for fleeing from fear. Instead, there's a way to turn fear into an ally. Stoicism teaches us that fear is natural. It's a natural response to danger, but it's important to understand that often fear only exists in our imagination. Stoics claim that fear arises from our inability to accept uncertainty and change. We fear losing control, we fear failure, we fear change. But should we fear what can't be controlled? Stoicism teaches us to let go of fear and take steps forward, even when we are afraid. Look at those who have overcome the toughest trials in history. Great leaders, philosophers, and warriors. They didn't avoid fear. They used it as fuel for their actions. They understood that failure isn't the end, it's the beginning of a new path. Stoics believe that every time we face failure, we're given a chance to become better. This is a lesson that isn't learned overnight, but with experience and time, we begin to realize that every failed step is part of our growth. Epictetus said, "Failure is not a misfortune, but a part of our life." He urged us to view failures not as personal defeats, but as opportunities for self-development. For a Stoic, every challenge is a chance to show their strength and resilience. Even when everything falls apart, it's in these moments that we can prove to ourselves what we're capable of. But how exactly does Stoicism help us deal with this fear? First and foremost, it's important to remember that fear often stems from our perception of a situation. When we begin to look at the world through the lens of Stoicism, we learn to accept what we cannot control and focus on what we can. Instead of worrying about the outcome, we start to appreciate the process itself. Stoics taught that it doesn't matter what external circumstances may be. What matters is how we respond to them. The most important thing in overcoming fear is realizing that fear can be avoided if we learn to accept it as an inherent part of our lives. Fear, like any other emotion, should not be suppressed, but observed and understood, knowing it has no power over us unless we give it that power. Stoicism helps us control our reaction to fear, not the fear itself. Epictetus taught, "Nothing in this world is so terrifying that it can break us." Our own reactions and beliefs can either diminish fear or amplify it immensely. Stoicism is the art of overcoming this fear with inner strength and dignity. When we begin to understand that failures aren't a sentence, but an opportunity to learn, we gain freedom. Every failure, every encounter with fear becomes a valuable lesson if we can draw strength from it. Stoicism doesn't just offer us a way to survive these moments, but to use them for our growth and personal development. It's important to remember that we won't avoid all difficulties, but we can learn to rise above them. It is precisely in moments of fear and failure that our true potential is revealed. Time isn't just an abstraction. It's something we have and can never get back. It slips away with every moment, and Stoicism teaches us to value it as one of the most important resources we have, a resource we must use wisely. Most people spend time worrying, thinking about the future, or regretting the past. But the Stoics offer us a completely different perspective on time. They teach us that time isn't something to fear losing. It's something to use to its fullest potential. Imagine you have a bank that deposits 86,400 seconds into your account every day. Each morning, you wake up, and this amount is given to you. In the evening, anything unused is gone. This is how time should be perceived. It's given to us every day, and we decide how to spend it. For Stoics, time is something that can't be returned, which is why they teach us not to waste it. Every day is an opportunity for self-improvement and achieving our goals. Stoicism teaches us to value the present. We often forget that we are living right here, right now, because we're caught up in thoughts about what will happen a year or 10 years from now, or we're reliving what happened in the past. Stoics assert that it's right now, in this moment, that all the power lies. Time doesn't depend on how many years we've lived. It depends on how we've used it. Do not waste time on empty worries. If you keep thinking about the future or regretting the past, you will lose the present. These words from Seneca remind us how important it is to be mindful and appreciate every moment. It's crucial to understand that time is not an eternal wealth. It's a valuable resource that cannot be returned. Every day slips away, and it's how we live it that determines what our future will be. One of the fundamental principles of Stoicism is using time for self-improvement. Stoics teach us not to waste energy on small distractions, on things that don't matter. Instead of worrying about what might go wrong in the future, Stoics suggest we focus on what is within our control. If we spend every moment on growth, on self-education, on self-awareness, we fill our lives with meaning. Time isn't something that should be filled with hustle and worry. It's something to be used for growth. Every day is an opportunity to become the best version of ourselves. Stoicism teaches us that we can only control how we relate to time, not the passage of time itself. What matters is mindfulness, being aware of every moment instead of postponing life for tomorrow. Understanding that time is a limited resource makes us more responsible for our actions. Seneca argued that it's not time that passes, but we who pass from time. This means that only we can decide how to use our hours and days. We must be attentive to each moment, not letting life slip by while we worry about what might have happened or what could happen. Stoicism calls on us to stop and ask ourselves, what am I doing right now? Is this really important? We can also learn to assign meaning to our actions, instead of just drifting through time. Stoics warn us against wasting time on useless and superficial activities, like hustle, mindless consumption of information, or everyday worries. This is time that slips away without leaving anything meaningful behind. But time spent on personal growth, on understanding our goals, on developing discipline, and on working on ourselves. This is time that truly brings results. When we begin to value every moment, we realize that we're not just passing time, we're making it a part of our life. We begin to live in the full sense of the word, rather than merely existing. Stoicism doesn't just teach us to accept the fact that time passes, it teaches us how to live in harmony with it. Time is an opportunity, and every moment is a chance. Roman philosophers like Seneca argued that life is short, and only a few of us use it wisely. They taught that every day should begin with this question: am I using this day to its fullest, or am I letting it slip away? Stoicism teaches us that only mindfulness and attention to the present make us masters of time. Be in the moment and value every second. Stoicism doesn't ask us to abandon the future, but it teaches us to live here and now, focus on what matters, and don't let fear of the future or regret about the past overshadow the present. Your time is your wealth, and only you decide how to spend it. Discipline is what separates successful people from those who remain stuck. Stoicism teaches us that discipline isn't just willpower. It's the conscious management of ourselves, our actions, and our emotions. It's the ability to do what's necessary, even when we don't feel like it, and the ability to remain calm and composed in the toughest situations. But how do we learn to be disciplined when we often want to give up or leave things as they are? Stoics argue that willpower isn't just temporary motivation, it's a steady state of mind that requires training. Seneca, for example, said, "He who controls himself can control everything." He argued that discipline begins with understanding our weaknesses and working with them. This doesn't mean we should suppress our desires, but we must learn to make conscious decisions, guided not by immediate impulses, but by long-term goals. Everyone faces moments when it's tempting to give in, when it's easier to take the shortcut. But it's precisely in these moments that our true strength emerges. Stoics teach us that self-control isn't about denying ourselves pleasures. It's about the ability to prioritize what truly matters. When you learn discipline, you learn to control your life, instead of letting circumstances or emotions control you. One key aspect of discipline is understanding that we can't control everything that happens to us, but we can control how we respond to it. And this is the foundation of Stoic philosophy. It teaches us that life will bring difficulties, failures, and suffering, but our attitude toward them determines how we will experience them. We can choose to be calm and resolute, instead of panicking or letting our emotions take over. Discipline is not just the ability to follow a plan, but also to remain calm and composed despite life's changes and unexpected turns. For example, if you set a goal, you must be prepared for difficulties to arise along the way. Stoics teach us that failure is not the end, it's an opportunity for growth. So, despite setbacks, you keep moving toward your goal, maintaining discipline. Self-control, which Stoics cultivate, is the ability to stay calm and balanced in any circumstance. Imagine a situation where everything around you is falling apart, when your plans are not coming to fruition and external circumstances have you at a standstill. How do you stay calm in these moments? Stoicism teaches us that the strongest people are those who can remain indifferent to external events, managing only what is within their control. They don't let panic or stress take over. Instead, they act with clarity and resolve. An essential aspect of discipline is the ability to focus on what can be changed and to let go of what is beyond our control. Epictetus wrote, "Do not worry about what you cannot change." This means that for a Stoic, it's crucial not to waste time on worries that cannot be resolved. The key to discipline is learning to let go and directing our energy toward what we can control. Mindfulness is what helps us develop discipline. When we realize that our lives are made up of small but meaningful steps, we begin to act consciously. This helps us maintain inner harmony and determination despite any difficulties. Stoicism teaches that every day is an opportunity to become better, and discipline is not just about completing tasks, but also about the ability to calmly accept every new challenge and how we respond to it. An example of discipline in Stoicism can be the practice of meditation and self-reflection. Stoics always took time to look within themselves, to evaluate their actions and think about how they could become better. This isn't just a spiritual practice, it's an essential component for remaining disciplined in our actions and decisions. This practice teaches us that every day is an opportunity to correct our mistakes and strengthen our resilience. Mastery of discipline doesn't come quickly, but it's possible for anyone willing to work on themselves. Stoicism teaches us not just to set goals, but to work toward them with patience and perseverance. It's a philosophy that helps us become who we want to be. Despite external obstacles, money is a powerful tool, but like any tool, it can be used correctly or incorrectly. Stoicism teaches us that money in itself is not the goal, but merely a means to achieve deeper, more important things in life. It's a philosophy that helps us understand that true values aren't found in material wealth, but in our inner world and in how we use the resources we have. Stoics weren't against wealth, but they were against attachment to it. They understood that money can be useful, but it can also become a trap if a person places it on a pedestal and starts to judge their happiness based on how much they have. Epictetus said, "Don't cling to what you can lose, cling to what you truly need." This means that what is most important for a Stoic are the things that cannot be bought with money: self-discipline, inner peace, harmony with oneself. The secret of Stoicism in relation to money lies in the understanding that wealth should not define our happiness. When we place money first, we become slaves to external factors and begin to lose control over ourselves. Stoics teach us not to worry about what we cannot control, including money, which may come and go. They suggest focusing on the things that remain with us always: our inner strength, discipline, and the ability to face hardships with dignity. Interestingly, Stoics taught us to use money not to accumulate it for the sake of accumulation, but to improve our lives and the lives of others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "There will be no happiness if you do not use your wealth for the good." Money becomes truly valuable when it's used for growth and helping others, instead of satisfying fleeting desires. An example of this can be seen in the Stoic attitude toward the need for material goods. Stoics taught that what truly matters is not how much we have, but how we use it. This doesn't mean we must give up everything we need for a comfortable life. It means we must understand that money is just a tool, and how we use it matters far more than how much of it we have. Seneca, one of the most famous Stoics, argued that wealth doesn't make us happy if we don't know how to manage it. He warned that those who seek wealth for the sake of wealth alone are doomed to inner unhappiness. True wealth isn't material goods, but the ability to remain free from attachment to those goods. Stoics teach us that we should treat money as a means to achieve our goals, not as the ultimate goal. For a Stoic, money is simply a way to meet our needs and achieve our goals, but it shouldn't become the meaning of life. Stoics advise us to focus on things that cannot be bought: virtue, peace of mind, self-control, and harmony with oneself. They teach that if we become attached to money, it will control us, not the other way around. But if we treat it as a tool to improve our lives and the lives of others, it becomes truly valuable. When we stop chasing money for the sake of its quantity, we begin to realize that true wealth is our inner world. Stoicism teaches us that only inner wealth can bring us true happiness and fulfillment. We can be happy without material possessions if we have peace of mind and confidence in ourselves, if we know how to use the resources we have for our own benefit and the benefit of others. It's important to remember that Stoics didn't reject material goods. They taught us simply to treat them with wisdom and not let them control our lives. True wealth is the inner world, not the external one. When we learn to value this inner wealth, we begin to live with the realization that true happiness doesn't depend on how much money we have in the bank, but on how we manage our lives. In today's world, filled with information and overload, minimalism is becoming not just a trend, but a philosophy capable of restoring our inner balance and harmony. Stoicism and minimalism have a lot in common. Both philosophies teach us to free ourselves from everything unnecessary, so that we can focus on what matters most: ourselves, our actions, and our values. It's a path that helps us get rid of noisy distractions, so we can remain calm and focused on what truly matters. Minimalism, like Stoicism, teaches us to get rid of unnecessary things, both material and immaterial. The fewer things we hold in our lives, the more space we create to focus on our goals, our inner world, and what truly brings us happiness. Stoics always emphasize the importance of simplicity. They didn't seek luxury, but instead they sought inner peace and harmony. They understood that luxury and consumption only distract us from true values, and that we should, on the contrary, strive for minimalism, both materially and emotionally. Marcus Aurelius said, "Happiness is not what you get, but what you let go of." This means that the essence lies in freeing ourselves from the unnecessary. To truly experience freedom, time is a limited resource, and if we fill it with useless things, we won't be able to focus on what really matters. Stoics taught that true freedom comes when we are not attached to things or external circumstances. Minimalism is not just about letting go of excess in a physical sense. It's about freeing our minds from overload. In a world where we are constantly bombarded with information, we lose the ability to focus on what is important and valuable. Mindfulness and minimalism teach us to focus on the present moment, not worry about the future or regret the past. When we get rid of what's unnecessary, both physically and psychologically, we begin to truly see what matters and what is just a distracting factor. Stoics, like practicing minimalists, taught us that true values are not found in the external world, but within us. Inspired by this, we can build our lives by focusing on what brings us true satisfaction: personal discipline, health, simplicity, relationships, and real experiences, rather than accumulating things and achieving material success. Seneca, in his writings, repeatedly emphasized that it is simplicity that makes us free. When we strip away unnecessary attachments, we begin to feel lighter and more confident. This doesn't mean that we should give up everything good in life. On the contrary, Stoics taught us that true pleasures come from simple things: a walk in nature, reflections on life, relationships with loved ones. These things don't require material costs, but they provide us with true fulfillment and happiness. Minimalism also helps us get rid of stress and anxiety. When we are surrounded by too many things or people, we begin to feel overloaded and exhausted. We lose the ability to evaluate what is truly important and begin to absorb everything indiscriminately. Minimalism helps us return to ourselves, clear our space and our soul to focus on what truly matters. Stoics understood that freedom doesn't come through possession, but through letting go of excess. Mindfulness is another key element of inner harmony. When we begin to be aware of every moment of our life, when we learn to be present in the moment, instead of being lost in thoughts about the past or future, we start to experience true harmony. Stoics urged us to embrace every moment, not getting distracted by worries or regrets. They taught us that what happens to us doesn't matter as much as how we perceive it. Awareness helps us remain calm and confident, no matter what's going on around us. Minimalism and mindfulness are closely connected to the concept of Stoicism. Stoics teach us to let go of everything that prevents us from being happy and free. They teach us to appreciate simplicity in order to achieve inner harmony and peace of mind. In this context, minimalism becomes not just a rejection of excess, but a conscious choice that helps us create space to focus on what truly matters: our growth, our values, and our inner world. When we begin to live with the spirit of minimalism and mindfulness, we stop being dependent on external circumstances and start building our lives around what truly matters. This is the path to inner wealth, to harmony and happiness. It's important to remember that happiness doesn't come from the number of material possessions. It comes through inner calm, self-confidence, and the ability to be grateful for every moment of life. When we begin to apply Stoicism in our lives, we start to see how deeply our relationship with the world can change. We realize that failures aren't the end, but the beginning of a new path. We stop fearing time and failure. We accept fear and turn it into a source of strength. We understand that wealth isn't in the number of things we have, but in how we manage what we possess. We live in harmony because we understand that happiness doesn't depend on external factors, but on how we perceive and relate to each moment. Stoicism teaches us that only we can decide how we will live. By applying the principles of Stoicism, we begin to recognize our strength and our ability to control our lives. The path to harmony and inner peace isn't always easy, but it is possible for each of us. Stoics believed that each of us has the potential to become the best version of ourselves, if we only learn to live mindfully and with respect for ourselves and others. If this video was helpful to you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback inspires me to create new videos that will help you become even stronger and more confident. Remember, your support helps me continue to share knowledge that can change your life for the better.